Good morning. Ran a little late today. Have so much to do getting ready for school. School starts in about a week. I think it starts on Tuesday for many of you in the Los Angeles Unified School District. But I start on Monday. So there's a lot of prepping to do. So that's what I've been doing. So welcome to the reading of Land of Stories, The Wishing Spell. Today I'll be reading chapter 11, The Troll and Goblin Territory. If you haven't listened to any of them, you need to go back and listen to the rest of it. I know that some of you are listening and following along. I know that there's 5 of you. I just don't know who it is. I know one of it has to be Emerson. Other one maybe Brianna. Those are people who logged in while I logged on. But other than that, I don't know. So hi to the rest of you who are following along. Thank you for following along. I hope your summer vacation is going great. I hope you enjoy your last week of summer vacation. Cherish every minute of it, every moment of it. Yeah, I haven't been doing much. I usually travel during the summer, but I'm not going to be doing that, unfortunately. So guess I have to wait for next summer, huh? All right, so let's go on to reading. I'm going to go back one page just to refresh your memory. Sorry, I wasn't on Friday, by the way. I was feeling very ill. Think I ate something wrong. And the night before, yes, it wasn't a very good sleep. Anyways, chapter 10, I'm just going to read the last paragraph or the last couple of sentences just so that you know what happened. Let me just kind of... Something about the dove. Okay, Jack watched her until she wasn't visible anymore. Jack met up with his lovely true love, his Goldilocks, yes? And they shared some time together. One's a criminal, one ran away. Goldilocks doesn't want to take Jack down with her, so she's on the run, and he just waits for her, huh? Waits for the dove, yeah. Right. So, hi Emerson. I know you're on. So Jack watched her until she wasn't visible anymore. Suddenly, all the life in his body faded away, and he once again became the sad man the twins had met earlier. He sadly turned away from the gate and slowly headed home. I guess not every fairy tale character gets a happily ever after, Alex said. Alex and Connor ran up to the gate. It was locked, so they had to climb over it, finally making their way out of the Red Riding Hood kingdom just as the sun started to rise. And that was the end of that chapter. I was going to say something. I forgot what it was, but let me continue to read. Oh, I don't know about... So I decided I'm going to read 30 minutes. So at 10:30, I'm going to stop this reading. I don't know where I'm going to be, but hopefully I'll be at half the chapter. If I'm way past half the chapter, then I'm going to read the whole thing. Because I get quite the tired after an hour of reading. It's kind of hard. All right, so Troll and Goblin Territory. Alex and Connor were lost. We're not lost. I just don't know exactly where we are, Alex told her brother. So in other words, we're lost, Connor said. All right, Connor, we're lost, Alex said, and hit him with the map. They had left the Red Riding Hood kingdom in such a hurry they thought they might have taken the wrong path. Alex kept looking down at the map, trying to see where they had made a wrong turn, and kept walking into bushes and trees. We could be in the fairy kingdom, or perhaps we're back in the charming kingdom, she said. But the eastern gate of the Red Riding Hood kingdom is close to so many borders. We could be in the sleeping kingdom, for all I know. How is anyone supposed to find their way around this place? It's all just a bunch of trees and dirt roads with an occasional castle. Connor said angrily. We're never going to get home. It's just a slight setback. We'll be back on track before you know it, Alex said. And exactly what track are we on? Connor asked. I hate to bring this to your attention, but we've only collected 3 of the 8 wishing spell items, and we have no idea what 2 of them are. And to be frank, we're not even sure if the wishing spell will work. When and if we do collect everything. Don't be so negative, Connor, Alex said. Alex, I'm just being realistic, Connor said. We still have so many places to go and so much more ground to cover. And after seeing the weird jungle woman in Red Riding Hood's castle take a chunk of the basket, we may not be the only ones going after the wishing spell thing. What if we don't succeed? Have you thought about what we'll do if we get stuck here? She hadn't thought about it and didn't want to. She was afraid that thinking about it made it much more possible. Alex inspected the map further, tracing it with her index finger. All right, I think I figured out what we did wrong, Alex said. We? You've been hugging the map since we got it, Connor said. I just kind of want to put the screen a little bit higher. Let's see if I can do this. Sorry, excuse me as I adjust my... There we go. All right, I think I figured out what I did wrong, Alex said. Alex said, her cheeks reddening. The path we should have taken is just on the other side of the forest next to us. We'll walk through the forest, get on the correct path, and then be on our way to the fairy kingdom. Great, Connor said. They walked off the path and into the forest beside them. After walking for a while, they noticed that the forest was very still and eerily quiet. Too quiet, especially for Connor. He had a bad feeling in the pit of his stomach since they'd entered the forest. The trees grew taller here, but whenever the twins looked up, there were no birds or bugs or anything to be seen gliding from tree to tree. The whole forest, excluding the trees, seemed lifeless. Hey, Alex, Connor asked. Yes, Connor, Alex said. Have you noticed we haven't seen any animals or birds for a while? He said. No, I haven't. I've been a little preoccupied, Alex said, still looking down at the map. I'm just saying, don't you think it's kind of strange we're the only... Ah! Without warning, the twins were jerked suddenly upward and suspended in the air. They were dangling above the ground in some sort of roped net. They had walked right into a trap. What's going on? Alex yelled. What is this? It's some kind of a trap, Connor said. Help! Alex screamed. Somebody help us! Unfortunately for them, their cries were heard by the wrong people. Two figures ran through the forest straight toward them. One was tall and lean, and the other was short and round. Eghorn, we caught something, said the low, growly voice of the smaller. It's about time, said the high-pitched, raspy voice of the taller. Who do you think that is? Who do you think it is? Think about it while I drink water. All right, you think about it? No? Yes? Who do you think it is? There's a short one, and their name's Eghorn. They don't seem like nice people. One is tall and lean, one is short and round. Let's see. They came close, and the twins could make out the frightening faces of a goblin and a troll standing before them. The goblin was gangly and thin, with big yellow eyes and peeping skin. The troll was fat and frumpy, with a huge nose and horns. Both had big pointy ears that stuck out on the sides of their heads. Let us go, Connor demanded. You can't do this, Alex yelled. The goblin and troll paid no attention to what Alex and Connor were saying and stared at the twins like insects in a jar. Ooh, look how young they are, Bubblewort, the goblin said. Plenty of time to serve, the troll said. What do you mean, serve? Connor said. You better not hurt us. Let us out of this net right now, or I'll report you to the local authorities, Alex said, not knowing whom she could be referring to. And they'll grow bigger and stronger every day, the troll said. Bubblewort, get the cart, the goblin instructed. They're going to make the perfect slaves. The twins struggled twice as hard as against the net when they heard the word slaves. They remembered what Froggy had told them over tea. The trolls and goblins had been banished for kidnapping and enslaving innocent people, and now Alex and Connor were living proof that it was still happening. How are they going to escape this? How do you think they're going to escape this? Do you think they'll escape it? What do you guys think? Well, Bubblewort the troll ran off and returned a moment later, driving a small cart pulled by a frail donkey. Eghorn, the goblin, cut a rope above the net, and the twins fell hard into the cart. They continued to fight against the restraints of the net, but it was no use. Eghorn climbed aboard the cart and sat next to Bubblewort. They both took the reins and whipped the donkey belligerently until the cart reached full speed. They traveled for the rest of the day, and the twins could see through the net were trees and sky zipping past them. Alex, what are we going to do? Connor said, still fighting against the ropes of the net. I don't know, Alex said. She was trembling like a small dog. Alex managed to squirm her way to a seated position under the net to see where the troll and goblin were taking them. They were headed straight toward a line of boulders the size of mountains. Alex gasped. She recognized the rock formation from the map. What is it? What do you see? Connor asked her. They're taking us into the troll and goblin territory, Alex said, completely white-faced. I can see the boulders that surround it. They remembered Froggy telling them the boulders had been placed around the territory to keep the trolls and goblins inside, but clearly the cart squeezed through the crack between the two of the boulders. The inhabitants had found ways around their imprisonment. The cart went through the boulders and into the kingdom, but there was nothing to see. There were no trees or buildings or life of any kind. For miles around them, the land was only littered with piles of rubble and broken bits of stone. I don't understand, Connor said. Where do they live? This looks like a medieval junkyard, Alex said. The cart went through a gigantic hole in the ground and traveled down deep into the earth. It was pitch black, and the twins could barely see their hands in front of their faces. The smell of mildew and decay was horrible. The whole kingdom must be underground, Alex said. After descending in the dark for quite a distance, they saw tiny lights ahead of them. They came from lanterns and scattered around a group of humans digging tunnels. What are people doing down here? Connor asked, and then saw the trolls and goblins behind them. Faster! The trolls and goblins demanded, whipping the humans. Alex had to cover her eyes at the sight of it. They must They must be slaves. Oh, Connor, this is horrible. This is horrible, she said. Connor hugged his sister, and she cried into his shoulder. It's okay, Alex. We'll find a way out of this, Connor said. But even he was scared. There were hundreds of huts and small homes stacked on top of one another all around them. It was an enormous underground world. This place must be like one giant ant colony, Connor said. The cart moved through the stone arch with large statues, one of a goblin and one of a troll, and on either side of it. They were frightening with harsh features, and they were anything but welcoming. A sign carved into the arch read, Be troll, be goblin, or be afraid. Sorry, I had a friend join us right now. Most people just have welcome mats, Connor said. Past the arch was a long tunnel constructed of stones. Can you guys visualize this? You guys should visualize this because you're going to have to remember this for later in the chapter. So, past the arch was a long tunnel constructed of stones. The cart traveled through the arch, and a light could be seen at the end of the tunnel. There was much noise coming from the end of the tunnel, a combination of high-pitched laughter, rumbling conversation, and loud clanking. The twins were soon driven into a massive common room with hundreds of goblins and trolls spread everywhere on numerous levels. Some were even hanging from a chandelier. Everything was made of stone. They ate and drank from stone plates and goblets and sat on stone chairs at stone tables. Everything must be very heavy, huh? They were served by other enslaved men and women. Each troll and goblin behaved in a more vulgar way than the last. In the center of the chaos, on a platform overlooking the room, were two thrones. The Troll King sat in one, and the Goblin King sat in the other. A crown made of rock was on display directly between them, just above their heads, demonstrating that they equally shared power over the kingdom. They watched over their citizens with crude smirks, enjoying the festivities around them. As a cart went through the room, many of the trolls and goblins hooted and hollered at the twins. Some threw bits of food at them. Alex and Connor held on to each other tighter than ever, both trembling with fear. The goblins and trolls were all grotesque and dreadful. They had warts and sharp teeth and horrible hygiene. They were the type of monsters Alex and Connor used to have nightmares about when they were younger. Sitting on the king's platform was a little troll girl about the twins' age. She had a round face and a small snout, and her hair was worn in pigtails just below tiny horns. She was sitting with her head resting on her hands and seemed bored and lonely. She didn't appear at all interested in the activities around her. She looked up at the twins past her and gasped when she saw Connor. This took him by surprise. What is she looking at? Connor asked. Do you think she wants to eat me or something? Connor turned a corner and descended down another long tunnel. They were so deep underground that they wondered if they could ever make it back to the surface. Sorry. Um, the cart entered a small, dim dungeon with a row of cells in it. Other slaves were imprisoned inside the cells, men, women, children, and elderly alike. They all looked exhausted and were ghostly pale. They were all silent and cowered at the sight of Eghorn and Bubblewort steering the cart into the room. Eghorn and Bubblewort. What kind of name is that? So funny. Eghorn and Bubblewort cut the net around Alex and Connor, yanked the bags out of their hands, and aggressively forced them inside a cell. Get in there, Eghorn said, and slammed the cell door shut. Slammed the cell door shut behind them. What do we have in here? Bobblewort said. He took the twins' bags to a table on the side of the room and dumped all their belongings out onto it. Stay out of there, Alex said as she watched helplessly. There, for the entire room to see, was a glass slipper, the lock of hair, the chunk of basket, the map, the journal, the dagger, the sack of gold coins, and everything else the twins had been carrying. Thankfully, the troll and goblin only seemed interested in the dagger and a sack of gold coins. They took those with them and dumped everything else in a pile of waste on the side of the table. Rest up, you'll have a long day tomorrow, Bubblewort said, and then shared a laugh with Eghorn and left the room with the cart. All the other slaves stared at Alex and Connor through the cell bars. They had sympathy in their eyes, so sorry that the twins were about to experience everything they had endured for however long they had been there. Does anyone know how to get out of here? Alex asked, but none of them responded, as if they had been trained not to speak. Even the children were silent. How is this happening? Connor grunted. He finally shook the bars of the cell, but they didn't budge. That's no use, said a voice behind the twins. Those bars are made out of pure stone. Alex and Connor turned to face the prisoner occupying the cell next to theirs. Crouched over, excuse me. Oh, a little tired, huh? Crouched over in the darkest corner of the cell was an old man. He was thin and had long gray beard and tattered clothing. There's got to be some way out of here, Connor said. I've heard every man and woman say that when they were first brought here, the old man said, but sadly, there isn't. How long have you been here? Alex asked him. Years, the man said. He leaned forward, and the light fell on his face. His face was as tired and ragged as his clothes. He had a wandering eye, which means there's one eye that just kind of moves around. So the twins couldn't tell which one of them he was speaking to. Say, don't I know you two from somewhere? He asked. The twins knew this wasn't possible, but the man seemed convinced, and for whatever reason, the man seemed oddly familiar to them too. Who do you think it is? Why does he look familiar to them? Who could it be? I believe so, Alex said. I don't believe so, Alex said. We're rather new to the area. I could swear it, the old man said. Are you sure I never traded you a magic flute for a chicken? Or perhaps a singing flower for a lamb? No, I'm sorry. We've never traded anything with you before, Alex said, and then she realized who he was. The wandering eye, the long beard, the ragged clothing. Could it be? She pulled Connor aside. Connor, he's the traveling tradesman, the one from the journal. Good job, Emerson. You have really good memory, Emerson. I can't believe you remember that. Connor couldn't believe it. Are you sure? He asked. Sir, said Alex, kneeling down to him. Are you by chance known as a traveling tradesman? The man had to think about it. Obviously, the years of enslavement have taken their toll on his mind. Yes, I believe that is what they called me, he said. He was happy to be reminded of a time when he wasn't a slave. The twins were so pleased to hear this. Ask him if he knows what happened to the man who wrote the journal. Connor whispered to Alex's ear, and she nodded. Mr. Tradesman, Alex said, do you remember the man coming to you and asking you about the wishing spell? The wishing spell? The tradesman asked. At first it seemed he had no idea what she was talking about, but then recognition dawned on his face. Ah, why, yes, I do. He was one of the last customers I did business with before I was brought here. Silly lad. He talked about wanting to travel into another world, and I thought I was mad. Did he ever make it? Alex said. Did he find all the items of the wishing spell? I don't know, the tradesman said. The twins slumped. I never saw him again, so it's possible. He looked at them curiously. Why do you ask? The twins looked at each other. They didn't know what to tell him. Don't tell me you two are chasing after the wishing spell, too, he asked. They looked at each other guiltily. Connor leaned down next to Alex and began asking questions of his own. Oh no. Connor's question seems to be kind of out of the box, huh? We're trying, but we don't know everything. We don't know everything we're looking for, Connor said. The tradesman laughed. No one does. That's the beauty of it. Some people know the descriptions of the items it requires, but no one knows exactly. No one knows what they are for sure. Like Hagatha, Alex said. She only knows what the riddles were. The man, she told them, had to figure out what they were on his own. But he could have been wrong. What if we found Hagatha and asked her for her opinion? Connor began. Hagatha is dead, the tradesman said. Dead? Alex gasped. How did she die? She fell into the thornbush pit, the tradesman said. What is the thornbush pit? Alex asked. Good heavens, child, are you daft? After the curse was broken on the sleeping kingdom, all the thornbush and shrubbery that had grown wild around the kingdom was cleared out and dumped into a large and deep pit. The tradesman said. Hegatha was collecting some of the thornbush for her home and fell in. Oh, that's awful, Alex said. Um, she called for help for days, but no one would help her. No one wanted to help an old hag, the tradesman said. Just before she died, Hagatha cursed the thornbush so that it would grow on anything or anyone near it, and pulled it straight to the bottom, where she was trapped forever. That's intense, Connor said. Since then, however, it's been used as a wasteland. People from all over the kingdom's journey there to let me read that sentence again. People from all over the kingdom's journey there to drop off anything never they never want to see again. Ooh, that's a weird sentence. Hold on, let me read that again. Sorry. People from all over the kingdom's journey there. Oh, sorry. Oh, they're using journey as a verb here. Okay. People from all over the kingdoms journey there to drop off anything they never want to see again, he said. I was using journey as a noun, and so I was reading the sentence wrong. And so I decided to use it as a verb, and then I used it right. Okay, that's a little trick to sentences. Sometimes when there's homophones, right? Some words you can use as a noun, and some words you can use as a verb. And so sometimes the sentence is read wrong. So I had to read it a couple times because my brain wasn't processing the sentence correctly. Interesting, huh? I wonder if there's anything else we could speak to, Alex said. Whatever journey you were on, I'm afraid it's over, the tradesman said. Once you're here, and there's nothing you can do about it. He turned away from them. A commotion came from up the tunnel leading into the dungeon. Trolls and goblins led the men and women who have been serving in the tunnels and the common room back into their cells. They all looked as if they could sleep for a year if permitted. Time for sleep, a troll ordered, and then extinguished all their torches in the room with a bucket of water. And if anyone makes a sound, no one will be fed tomorrow. The trolls and goblins left the dungeon, chuckling. The room was pitch black. Alex found Connor in the darkness. They rested beside each other. I just don't want Mom to worry, Alex said with big teary eyes. The longer we're here, the longer she's going to be alone. I'm sure Grandma is with her, Connor said. They probably have the entire police department looking for us. It'll be an interesting conversation once we get home and tell them where we've been all this time. Thanks for being positive, Connor, Alex said. Despite the little comfort her brother gave her, Alex cried herself to sleep. Connor couldn't sleep. He couldn't stop thinking about that. Just a week before, he had been safe and sound in his own bed, fearing nothing but schoolwork and Mrs. Peters. And now, here he was, in the dungeons of another dimension, facing a life of slavery. How quickly times had changed. I think this is the best place to stop. It's been 24 minutes, and the more I continue, I'm going to have to just end up reading the whole chapter. All right? So I will read part 2 tomorrow of this book. And Emerson, I'll see you in like 2 minutes, okay? All right, bye guys. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you tomorrow. Ooh, where's my mouse? There it is.